So it was a time of civil war in Sri Lanka, right?
Then there was a guerrilla warfare back and forth. And in between, the people, normal people, get killed. But I was a child who was born and brought up in a war zone. For me, there's no difference because I didn't know better. The resilience that comes from being in a war zone. If you survive this, you can survive anywhere. Money doesn't work there. It's only about networks. I survived somehow. For I don't know why and how, I survived somehow. If I can empower anyone who have gone through the same challenges to solve their own complex problems, then that is the real empowerment.
Do you know what happened in Sri Lanka during the period of 1985 to 2000? I personally did not know about that event that much, but there was a big chaos that happened during this time in Sri Lanka. There was a civil war which lasted for approximately 3 decades. Even the assassination of Indian Prime Minister Mr. Rajiv Gandhi is also associated with this war. The story was told many times in the history books, newspapers, and many other media back then. Even you will find some movies like Madras Cafe, which is based on Sri Lankan Civil War. But what happened exactly? Why this war started? How innocent people were dragged and killed in this period? We are going to find out answers to this through a genuine life story of a man who grew up in this war zone. He faced countless hardships and lost his family and friends. Today, I have Mr. Aravinth Punch with me. Beyond overcoming deep personal struggles, he is now a successful entrepreneur in 3 different verticals. He also recently celebrated his 5th anniversary of his NGO, Dream Space Academy, which is dedicated to helping young kids trapped in a tough situation, much like his own past. Life of Aravinth has so many angles, so many different stories, ups and downs, and I got to learn a lot from this episode. We have divided this discussion into 2 episodes. In the first episode, we will discuss about war and how did he survive. In the second episode, you will get to know how someone can build something so big from nothing. So enjoy today's episode on Deutschland On Air and get empowered by our guest, Mr. Aravinth Punch. You have so many real life experiences, so many hardship, struggle, and I could say it's kind of a short Netflix documentary we can create on your life. You studied here in Germany. You worked in non-profit organizations. You are like a survivor in the war field. You also worked in the corporate. You run your own show. You have so many ventures, and there are many things that you do. And I'm sure that at the end of this episode, people will feel empowered and confident that they can do something by hearing your story. Let's start with from your childhood. How was your life back then as a kid?
It's a difficult story. Also, there are a lot of geopolitical elements in this story that a lot of people, they don't know that such thing would have happened. Especially in India, the people would never know such thing would have happened to a neighboring country.
Same for me. I did not know about that.
By India
I only know because of the movies, some movies, but then
Mm-hmm. So I was born in 80s in a time that several people in our family were killed in a very short period of time, like within a few days.
So it was a time of civil war in Sri Lanka, right?
Yeah, the civil war was going for 30 years, but this was the beginning, the first decade of the war.
What was that war about, basically?
Yeah.
Just to set a context.
Okay, set a context. Yeah. So it's again geography and geopolitics. In Sri Lanka is an island nation in the middle of Indian Ocean, and we have different ethnic groups and different languages, like you find in India. And major ethnic group are Sinhalese people. Majorly, they are Buddhist, so around 70 plus percent of them. The rest of the 30% are mostly Tamil-speaking population coming from different religious backgrounds, so Hindus and Christians and Muslims, almost equal proportion. We were never part of India or something like that, or that's why we were not united after the British left. And so it was a very rich ancient country because it has served as a fueling refueling station for any ships moving from east of the world to the west of the world. So any Chinese vessels or anything that cross through have to come to Sri Lanka. For thousands of years it has been, I would say. In the late 70s, there has been a lot of conflicts. There has been always a conflict because Tamil is a minority in Sri Lanka for some known period of time, not thousands of years before, but known period of time. And then a lot of the Tamil people in the administrative power, they're minority, but they were in the administrative power during the British colonial time. But when the country is an independent country in 1940, just immediately after India got independence, and 47 is India, 48 February is Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka,
yeah.
okay.
And the government has been given, so to say, to the majority of the people, which is a singlist majority. But and then this thing comes into a play, right? Some small minority being an administrative and decisive power, but then the majority is kind of behind, and then there was this back and forth. Both sides. I mean, I hope this is why, because in every conflict you have multiple frontiers, and by 1979 it has exploded.
But how the minority group of people became the administrative of the?
Because Tamil people were scholars, and so during the colonial time they gave the administrative position to the Tamil people.
Okay,
and that's why.
It's a story of in many countries as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I hope so. This is what it's my perception. Yeah, these are very politically. I hope I can go back to Sri Lanka after this. And
but that's it.
Yeah, and then 1979 and during after independence, 60s, 70s, and there was a big movement that led to this war was. Which is currently happening in India, I would say, is that they decided that only Sinhala and English should be the national language of Sri Lanka and Tamil should not be. And that kind of a systemic way of suppression started happening so that they don't get into universities, they don't study. So basically they will, in few generations, these people may not be in the power, administrative or educated people. And then there were a lot of protests and shootouts, killing, burning live and all those things. And by 1979, from the northern Sri Lanka, one of the rebel forces or freedom fighters, they call it in different ways. And someone calls them militants and someone called them terrorists. And, they fought against the armed forces of Sri Lanka. It's a kind of a guerrilla warfare. So they didn't have anything. So they fight, ambush, build a weapon. It's because they didn't have any access. It's an island. You have no other way to go and buy something out from another country. There's ocean around. So that's how they build up and so on. And the biggest incident that people would say this is the beginning of the war is 1983. A library in northern Sri Lanka and Jaffna and the Tamil parts were burned down. This library was the biggest and the largest library in Asia, and that really forced a lot of educated people, a lot of people who have been, their life started with this library to become part of LTT, the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. Tamil Eelam is the part of Sri Lanka. I think after that, there was a huge incident happened in Colombo, Tamil homes and shops, and people were killed and burned and all those things. Big incident in 83 that time. All these forced a lot of young people to join the rebel. There were multiple groups against the armed forces, but one of the big was LTTE. And then there was a guerrilla warfare back and forth. These people attack, they attack, and in between the normal people get killed on both sides. And that's what happened 86, 85, end of 85. And in our family, my mom's last brother he got an opportunity to leave. I think he was going from Sri Lanka to India. From India, he came to Denmark because Denmark, a lot of neutral countries were open at the time.
Okay.
And at the time to go to Germany from Sri Lanka, you don't need visa. Still at the time, you can fly but still it's difficult as to how to go to airport and fly, And my mom's another elder brother, younger brother, but they're all younger brother to my mother. But yeah, he went and dropped my uncle at the airport, and when he was coming in the jungle region in the middle, Tamil Shangalis region, 7 of them were taken out of the bus. All of them were built, and my uncle was actually an educated person working in the government in a municipality as a draftsman. They all were shot on the head, and they were thrown into the jungle. And so,
just because they do not wanted to participate in the moment.
This is happening all around Sri Lanka at the time, massively happening. And they were, unfortunately, this happened to my mom's brother. And the next day, so my grandfather was a bus driver, again in the public transport system of Sri Lanka. We were neither army part or rebel part, normal people doing normal things. And my grandfather was worried, and so he borrowed a vehicle from someone, and took another uncles and friends and so on. And they went, and the next day they were all shot.
How old you were there by that time?
I was born exactly in this. I was a child. Okay. I was born in this time. So because of this incident, majority of our family moved. Some of our relatives moved to Berlin in 1979, but a lot of them massively moved to Europe and different countries in the global north. My grandmother, who saw her husband and son die like that, didn't want to leave the country. She said she wants to stay there. And so my grandmother stayed, and my mother decided to stay, being an eldest daughter in the family, because we are a matriarchy. So that's why we grew up in the war zone.
How was your mental situation at that point of time when all of those things were happening, like seeing our own relatives being killed by someone and we don't know what's happening? You were a child, right? So how was your mental situation?
So in the 80s, it was... I don't remember. So 90s I remember, definitely. Early 90s. Control was changing from the military armed forces to LTT armed forces to IPKF armed forces, like Indian peacekeeping forces. And back and forth, a lot of things are happening. But I was a child who was born and brought up in a war zone. For me, there's no difference because I didn't know better. So for me, it was normal. And for me and for other kids of my age, it was normal. It was fun. The school I studied is the oldest school of Sri Lanka, the Methodist school, Methodist missionary school, 1814, so more than 200-year-old school. And so it has old building, very old building they have. And we are on the coast, East Coast, so we have a lot of, if you know, this multi-barrel shelling. So it's dozen of shells that can be shot from one barrel, not singular. And when you shoot so many of them at the same time, then the sonic boom and the sound and the vibration you will feel on all the buildings.
And you experienced that by yourself?
Yeah. This is every day. This is how we lived. And so when they shoot this, and the building next to because brigadier office was just next to our school, they shoot these barrels. And then if you know these military terms, because we have been grown up with this, the whole building will shake, it's the whole building. We were like, wow, the building is shaking. That's the level of mindset we had. Because for us, we know that anytime we can die, and we were okay with that. And throughout night, we will have a shootout, a lot of shootout. And the only thing that I would think at that age, next day I have to go and pick up all those covers, caliber covers and stuff, and I show it to my friends, how would I collect it? Okay. That's the only thing that we had as a toy, So in that way, it was okay. It was not affecting too much because that's how we were in that zone. The survival, the resilience that comes from being in a war zone. If you survive this, you can survive anywhere, because money doesn't work there in the war zone. Money never works in the war zone. It's only about networks work there. No matter how rich you are, you could be shot. Like one of our relatives, they had hundreds of acres of land, tractors, animals, this and that. Overnight, all they become refugees within the country. All those, even now, their land is under their military control. The same family, they were also shot. Many of them were trying to run and shot and died. And some of them live in Germany. And when they moved to our home, particularly the east coast of Sri Lanka, and they stayed with us because they became refugees or displaced within the country. And they helped me during this time to grow. And one of that uncle was exactly, he understood this aspect of networking, because many times he's the eldest, and one time his younger brother was taken. So usually there is a white, if we call it, there's a white van, it's a certain type of Toyota high-S van coming, and if they are taking you in, you're dead. That's it.
Oh.
That's it. Kid or adult or whatever, it's dead.
No matter.
You don't come back. You never find the body. And they took him. So, and usually we said, okay, that's it, it's over. But this uncle of mine, he knew like from all sides, from rebel, from army, from everything. And within a day, within the night, because night is like usually people, no one survives overnight. And then he brought the younger brother back. And then these are like inspiring moments for me. Like, okay, he knows this guy. He knows that he can build a car. He can build this. Whom you know on all sides, how you know, what you know, whom. That's the only thing that can make you survive in this. And that's exactly the same in this world of outside a war zone also. It's about like whom you know. These kind of interdisciplinary skills and capabilities, and also like to know and connect with people and network, was the biggest thing learning, which I still follow and have, and also train my trainees or employees or whoever. The bad aspect of that is affecting now, because we are always in alert. One of my friend, he was very close. He was shot on his ear and dead. Again, he didn't do anything. He was running. He was scared, and he was very young when he was shot. I still have nightmares about that.
Do you still feel angry about something?
I think a lot of anger. That's what I'm trying to come out of all these things.
What is the thing that you feel most angry about?
We have been oppressed in Sri Lanka. And then we have a lot of injustice, oppression have been done by India to us. This kind of anger is there. I mean, it's not only specific to that, but I'm generally, if someone tries to tell me even here, you cannot do this, because people here just make up any law, even if this doesn't exist, they will say you cannot do that. I'm like, really getting angry about it. But I'm trying to change myself. At least in the last 6 months, I've been in a different type of transformation. But any kind of oppression, either to me or to anyone, if I see, I get really, I can be very wartime kid, like respond to that. And so because we are not worried about dying, and at all.
Yeah.
And that is something is there. Yeah, but it's changing. I'm trying my best to tell my amygdala I'm not anymore in war zone, but it is there.
When did you realize that something is not going good or something is going wrong and you need to take some action on it?
That happened only when I became a refugee in India. Before that I was kind of okay.
So you moved to India from Sri Lanka.
They were already sending, and they were taking like region by region. And then there was ceasefire announced. So that ceasefire was negotiated by Norwegian and Canadian government. That was the first time there was a ceasefire since the big war. And the first time there was a press meet that happened from the rebel leader speaking to the world and trying to negotiate things. And in this ceasefire time, they kind of removed all these sentries and barriers and block. It was there, but a little bit easier to move from the Tamil side to the other side, because other side is where we have the international airport and the Sinhalese in Colombo side, yeah. And then that's the moment my parents decided, okay, we have to run away. Like it was me and my mom and sister. My sister, we had just almost 1 year difference, only like twins, yeah, less than. So we went to India, 2000. End of 2000 or 2001. I was 14 years old. But then all the incident that happened in India was the reason that we were again separated and in different places.
What happened in India?
So at that time, since Indira Gandhi was killed, Rajiv Gandhi came to power. When he came to power, I think he tried to flip the whole story. I don't know why. Why India has to support Tamil to fight the war? Why don't we do the other way around? Yeah, maybe something like that.
Political thing.
Yeah. To finish it off, whatever it is. And then they forced all the Tamil leader, the rebel, and this and that to sign a treaty that IPKF will come to India, Sri Lanka, Indian Peacekeeping Force, and all the Tamils rebels group have to surrender and provide the things, weapons and everything. In this way, that they promise that there will be a peace and there will be whatever the request from the Tamil side will be facilitated, but it didn't happen. They came, the rebels handed over everything, and it was a massacre. I met later, when I grew up, I met a lot of officers in different parts of India, and just to make sure if that is true, and they said, they told, one of these old persons started crying. He was in Dehradun. I met him, the Indian Military Academy. He said, it happened, but I didn't do anything wrong. But I saw my fellow Indian army was absolutely doing anything.
Even I did my research. I was reading about all the rebellion movement with the LTTE and what happened, what was those peacekeeping forces and the interference from the United Nations, India and all of those things. That was not that intense the way you mentioned. So, but now you are saying it's completely different, which what I learned through my research.
No, I mean, there are a lot of good peoples in part of this whole movement. I met some IPKF officers. They said that how they helped to escape a lot of LTT commanders to countries like UK and Swiss and so on. Yeah, but they also said other people are doing, because once you're licensed to kill, that's why I always kind of against the whole philosophy of army, because you don't take your own decision. If someone shows you, shoot. It's even if you are like Pakistan, they were brothers. One day overnight you become enemies, and that can happen to anyone, anytime, anywhere in the world. So that's what to be very critical thinking is a very important thing, because a lot of people in India, when it comes to internal politics, they always blast all the politician and this and that. They are bad, they are this. Can you imagine the same people, how bad they could be to the outside. So that's why we never know what's happening in those borders.
It's hard for me to believe those things, but I don't want to object or anything, because you are the one who faced all of those things.
Yeah. This was a massive mistake of the geopolitical movement, and to take revenge for this, LTT went to India in 1991, and it's a suicide bomb. And they killed the prime minister of such a giant nation without thinking the consequences of that. So there was a very big, aggressive actions taken against Sri Lankan Tamils in India, in Sri Lanka. And as I went there as a child, me and my sister, 14, 15, my mom, we were not accepted. Like, we came there, we could have, there was no system, so to say. We were not going to the refugee camp. Refugee camp is where in the south of Rameshwaram side, where there is a boats going. So we went by flight. So there was no system in India to handle this situation. So we went there, and then the whole system put us in a way that we are becoming stateless. We didn't have any identity, no address, no bank accounts. So we were not allowed to go to school. And the first year of I remember that I was 14 years old, and I was thrown out of the 9 different houses by the house owners, saying that you're a terrorist. I was 14-year-old, go away. We will not give you a house. And then I was almost many times homeless.
So is it because of the Indians were having some prejudice against, because of the whole situation and how it has been put forward into the media?
Yes. And then my sister was sent to my brother. And my mom went to my father, so I ended up alone.
How do you keep control over your mental health and the emotional health? Because, you're suffering and you're seeing your close relatives being dead on the spot, and you don't know what to do. You don't have any support. How do you manage those things? Have you ever felt like giving up? Because I see there were like so many hardships, but at one point you might have felt like, okay, it's not working, I should give up.
7 years of my life in India was suicidal, depressive.
Really?
Yes. Because I was put in a state, kind of almost like a stateless. And then when the war again started and my family couldn't come to the country, I couldn't leave from India. I tried to deport myself 6 times. I couldn't leave or live. I was not, I didn't have any identity. So I didn't have any address and stuff like that. Of course, I was not initially not going to school because they didn't take me, and slowly through certain systems that I was able to survive. 7+ years of my life, because I was there for 10 years and 3 years. First, I was a little bit, 14, 15, 16. So it was okay. And then later only that I started feeling the pain, the emotional, the neural pathway of physical and emotional pain is biologically the same pathway. So, and then I started feeling like 18, 17, 18 or something like that, because I found a way to go to school, and then again, a struggle, found a way to go to university. And in the university where I studied, most of the people were from other states of India. So all of them, they go on semester holidays. It's just me and the security guard of the university stays throughout the year. And so these are the moments that I see, okay, literally, whatever, if I die or live, nothing matters. I'm a ghost. So I'm already a ghost. I was not in the system of anything. That moments I always said, I don't have a reason to live. I don't have a reason to die also. And then later, after my university also, I don't know that I have been to pretty much everywhere in India than any other Indian. I learned 4 or 5 Indian languages, because I was keep moving.
That's interesting. So you came from a worse situation. I guess you are channelizing all of those experiences into build something, and that's where you started learning the languages.
Exactly. Not only learning the languages, building the network. So within 1 year, I was speaking Indian Tamil. Indian Tamil and Sri Lankan Tamil, they're different. Yeah.
It's a dialectual difference?
Yeah, of course, it's dialect, but it's different one. So easily people can tell. Within a year, I was speaking like a raw Chennai Tamil, which is like, the fisherman's Tamil, we got like one sum.
To hide your identity?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so, because otherwise people don't do anything. They will not let me even in a building, And then building networks, trying to connect with MLAs, MPs, councillors, low level, big level, anyone, trying to learn everything. As I said, this interdisciplinary comes from there. Like, because I was not like other kid going to school to do one thing. I was not going to school at that age, 15. And what I did, this is the tipping moment for me. In Sri Lanka, when I was there, I was learning from one of my school senior to do some animation. So it's like this all like 22 years ago. So it was in the early stages of the digital animation. And when I went to India, I saw all the kids who are going to school like me, not like me, like, in my age, were playing games. So I learned to make games because it was not challenging enough for me to play the game. And then I started learning more and more about the animations and stuffs. And then some people asked me, okay, can you do animation for TV? Like, these cricket matches when the character jumps in, like 20 years ago when Tigers come. It was done, one of that was done by me.
Okay.
And then I said, yeah, why not? And slowly, some things started doing. And then I kind of started getting the idea of entrepreneurship and the service providing and self-learning. And then I have my relatives, of course, all around the world. And we are a very big family, 400, 500 people. So every country in the world, because of war also, they moved. And they started bringing me some project. But of course, I don't have any bank, but through Western Union and proxies. And so money was there, some money. And my family, my father was sending me money through Western Union. And then I started building this. And I started doing things, and I was developing learning management system, interactive learning management tools for medical university in Russia, like for anatomy. So I was 15, 16 years old. So I engaged myself in learning and building networks and all those things, but just by going to internet cafe and so on. Later, I had another computer.
Imagine like if a child, 15, 18 years old watching this podcast, and if he wants to know how did you start the learning and how did you build your first game, for example, what was the exact process? Because from the words that you are saying, okay, I can understand because I'm from the technical background or I know how it works. But if someone don't know where to start, how to start learning, self-learning.
Since I was a child, when I was 4 or 5 years old, and my father came one time. So during all this time, I met my father only a few times because he cannot come. Yeah. So when he came, he was taken again by the white man. So he just survived, and he doesn't come once in 5 years or so 4 years he came. And so he brought some computer, and then I was very young, and then I was like very much interested in all these things. So I had there was no training like in India, so we have to do everything ourselves. And that self-learning capability and maybe a little bit of giftness in the way that I'm born, that was allowing me to self-learn.
I believe much more in this type of learning, like learning from the real life experiences in the ground level. I had my father had a grocery shop, a small grocery shop in my town in Maharashtra, and I used to watch him talking with the customers and being diplomatic out of even if you don't want to be diplomatic, and even if you don't want to be soft, he has to be, because that's how it works in the customer interaction. That's how it should be. And I always like, why you are not being straightforward to the customer because he is being rude, why you should not speak his language? And he's like, no, that's not how it goes. If you want to make a business and if you want to survive the business, you have to be humble and soft spoken in this business. And that's where I started learning how to handle the customers, how to talk with the customers. And those are the ground level experiences which I think helped me a lot to build that level of communication, that level of management and people skills. And that's why I think those real life experiences are much more powerful than reading something in the book and just yeah.
And when I went to India, that of course it's massive opportunities, and anyone, whether you are a low caste or higher caste, doesn't matter. You can learn, or you can access anything. There's a system for it. And then the one person gave me an opportunity to be trained in a multimedia certification
in
program.
India?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then because I was not in the parallel to I was not in the school, so I did that. And it's a private thing, so I don't have to prove my identity or anything like that. And so that's how I started learning. And then from that moment, I was always learning myself. So during this time, as I said, I found ways to go to school. Someone gave me an opportunity. Again, it's all personal thing, because again, they cannot do it in an official way. They have to do it in an unofficial way.
Okay.
Because of that, I have to be a ghost in the school. I have to be a ghost in the university. I cannot go and participate in anything. Or
It's
do
like
anything.
a Rancho from Three Idiots. Have you seen that movie, Three Idiots?
It's the
So
American.
he's
I
studying,
like that. I have to be a ghost because I cannot be visible. The thing is, by the time I went to university to study bachelor, it was a deemed university, so most of them were rich kids who studied. Many of them didn't even have knowledge how to even do something in their computers. I was already having international clients and portfolio at the time, but I cannot even participate in the smallest and the simplest competition. I remember that in the third year in Indian universities, they have this campus interview, and also a lot of the students, they go to US for exchange program and they continue to their masters. And many of them, like I would say, that have no eligibility at all of any of these things, but they can do that, but I could not do at all. And then, so it's the same story when I finished during the university, then Tata, TCS was the first company. They said I shouldn't go to the campus interview. I said like, okay. And then somehow someone put me in this. Every time something happens like this.
But why you did not move out of India then?
I couldn't leave. I tried to deport myself 6 times.
Why?
Because I'm a ghost.
Oh, you don't have your identity. That's why. Okay.
That's how, like with the university and then the work also, it happened. Like I got to go to TCS and someone recruited me, even though I told them all these stories and he didn't know what exactly, because a lot of people from India, they don't, like if they're Tamil Nadu or Kerala, they know what Sri Lanka. A lot of people, they don't know what Sri Lanka. So some recruiter put me in this panel with the TCS and I was selected, of course. Like I was running a lot of things I did before even this, like other people didn't have any experience. And then I was put in TCS, went to Hyderabad, I had a training, and again, it was joke for me because even the trainer and the whole training center was a joke for me because I was way ahead of them. And then they asked, where do you want to go with the posting? I said, I don't want to be in South. And then they posted, I want to go to Delhi. And this was one of the options, so they posted me in Delhi. And then that's where, again, the same problem started. They said, oh, I cannot stay here in the company, and because they made a mistake in employing me, and then this and that. And
so you started your corporate life, but there elsewhere you face some
Same
struggles.
as school and college. And
So this identity issue was a biggest issue for you.
It would be so funny because the Delhi TC's office in the PTI, Press Trust of India building behind the Parliament. So I was every day
Oh my God.
in the same building as the Ministry of External Affairs. And they always ask me questions like, how did you even come? Like, what? This is what I've been telling. I came in a good way. You made me this. And what can I do? Just give me a solution. They couldn't give a solution. TCS couldn't give a solution. They kept me in the job for like 1 year. And they asked me, okay, well, the only way is I have to resign. So I said after a year, I will resign. Finally, with all these difficult travels and this and that and not seeing family for almost a decade and this and that, and the war ended in 2009. 2009 to 2010, I went to all different types of CBCID office like FBI of India to give me a clearance and say, I didn't do anything wrong in this country. It's just I was put into this, just let me go. You're not letting me live here, so let me go. And then after all the struggle, they left me go. They gave me a clearance. And then in 2010, I went going home after 10 years. And my mind was stuck at the age of 14-year-old. Everything that I knew and people and everything is still same. Even now, I'm 37. And I saw that 3 decades of the war, almost 30 years, 1979 to 2009. The massive destruction happened in the socio-economic and environmental ecosystem of the country. We had every international aid and development cooperation, government development cooperation and so on, but they couldn't solve these fundamental problems sustainably. In that moment, I was thinking, okay, 24 years of my life, I was either a war child or a forced child soldier or a child refugee and young refugee. And I survived somehow. For I don't know why and how, I survived somehow because I took these challenges and there was no one, even the family wasn't there to come and help resolve that. So I have to resolve it myself. So I believe that if I can empower youngsters or anyone who have gone through the same challenges to solve their own complex problems, then that is the real empowerment. And that is how the Dream Space was born. That's when exactly in my life for the first time is the moment that I really felt there is a reason for me to live.
Motivation is something I don't believe. I believe in empowerment, as I mentioned.
We have brought so many of them. They have literally no bank balance to Germany. They have no educational qualification. They are first generation to come and sit in an office job. And this gives them a real motivation that anyone can be successful. Now I don't have to put my money.
I have some goosebumps, like we started from a war zone situation and your life. This is what I call an empowerment.